Let's read together. Let's read 35 and 36. Forgive me if I stumble in 36. It is a long list of generations, and I will probably butcher it as I usually do with such lists. Genesis 35 says this. God said to Jacob, "Arise, go up to Bethel and dwell there. Make an altar there to the God who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau." So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Put away the foreign gods that are among you, and purify yourselves, and change your garments. Then let us arise, and go up to Bethel, so that I may make there an altar to the God who answers me in the days of my distress, and has been with me wherever I have gone." So they gave to Jacob all the foreign gods that they had, and the rings that were in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the terebinth tree that was near Shechem. And as they journeyed, a terror from God fell upon the cities that were around them, so that they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. And Jacob came to Luz, that is Bethel, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all the people who were with him. And there he built an altar and called the place El Bethel, because there God revealed himself to him when he fled from his brother. And Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried under an oak below Bethel. So he called its name Alon Bacuth. God appeared to Jacob again when he came from Paddan Aram and blessed him. And God said to him, "Your name is Jacob. No longer shall you be called Jacob, but Israel shall be your name." So he called his name Israel. And God said to him, "I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations shall come from you, and kings shall come from your own body. The land that I gave to Abraham and Isaac I will give to you, and I will give the land to your offspring after you." Then God went up from him in the place where he had spoken with him. And Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he had spoken with him, a pillar of stone. He poured out a drink offering on it and poured oil on it. So Jacob called the name of the place where God had spoken with him Bethel. Then they journeyed from Bethel, and they were still some distance from Ephrath. Rachel went into labour, and she had hard labour. And when her labour was at its hardest, the midwife said to her, "Do not fear, for you have another son." And as her soul was departing, for she was dying, she called his name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. So Rachel died, and she was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And Jacob set up a pillar over her tomb. It is the pillar of Rachel's tomb, which is there to this day. Israel journeyed on and pitched his tent beyond the tower of Eder. While Israel lived in that land, Reuben went in and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard of it. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. The sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's servant, Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Zilpah, Leah's servant, Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Paddan Aram. And Jacob came to his father Isaac at Mamre or Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had sojourned. Now the days of Isaac were 180 years. And Isaac breathed his last, and he died and was gathered to his people, old and full of days. And his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. These are the generations of Esau, that is Edom. Esau took his wives from the Canaanites, Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, Oholibah, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Zibeon the Hivite, and Basemah, Ishmael's daughter, the sister of Nebaioth. And Adah bore to Esau Eliphaz, Basemah bore Reuel, and Oholibamah bore Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. These are the sons of Esau who were born to him in the land of Canaan. Then Esau took his wives, his sons, and his daughters, and all the member of his household, his livestock, all his beasts, and all his property that he had acquired in the land of Canaan. He went into a land from his brother Jacob, for their possessions were too great for them to dwell together, and the land of their sojournings could not support them because of their livestock. So Esau settled in the hill country of Seir. Esau is Edom. These are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites, in the hill country of Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Adah, the wife of Esau; Reuel, the son of Basamah, the wife of Esau. The sons of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. Timnah was a concubine of Eliphaz, Esau's son. She bore Amalek to Eliphaz. These are the sons of Adah, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Reuel, Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah. These are the sons of Basamah, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Oholibamah, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Zibeon, Esau's wife. She bore to Esau Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. These are the chiefs of the sons of Esau. The sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn of Esau. The chiefs of Teman, Omar, Zepho, and Kenaz, Korah, Gatam, and Amalek. These are the chiefs of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. And these are the sons of Adah. These are the sons of Reuel, Esau's son. The chiefs Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah. These are the chiefs of Reuel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Basamah, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Oholibamah, Esau's wife, the chiefs Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. These are the chiefs born of Oholibamah, the daughter of Anna, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Esau, that is Edom, and these are their chiefs. These are the sons of Seir, the Horite, the inhabitants of the land: Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anna, Dishon, Ezer, and Dishan. These are the chiefs of the Horites, the sons of Seir in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Lotan. The sons of Lotan were Hori and Heman, and Lotan's sister was Timnah. These are the sons of Shobal: Alvan, Manahath, Ebal, Shepho, and Onam. These are the sons of Zibeon: Ai and Anna. And he is the Anna who found the hot springs in the wilderness as he pastured the donkeys of Zibeon his father. These are the children of Anna, Dishon and Oholibamah, the daughter of Anna. These are the sons of Dishon: Hemdan, Eshban, Ithran, and Cheran. These are the sons of Ezer: Bilahan, Zav'an, and Akan. These are the sons of Dishan: Uz and Aran. These are the chiefs of the Horites, the chiefs Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anna, Dishon, Ezer, and Dishan. These are the chiefs of the Horites, chief by chief, in the land of Seir. These are the kings who reigned in the land of Edom before any king reigned over the Israelites. Bela, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom, the name of his city being Dinhab. Bela died, and Jobab, the son of Zerah of Bozrah, reigned in his place. Jobab died, and Husham of the land of the Temanites reigned in his place. Husham died, and Zadad, the son of Bedad, who defeated Midian in the country of Moab, reigned in his place. The name of his city being Avith. Hadad died, and Samlah of Masrekah reigned in his place. Samlah died, and Shaul of Rehoboth on the Euphrates reigned in his place. Shaul died, and Baal-Hanan, the son of Akbor, reigned in his place. Baal-Hanan, the son of Akbor, died, and Hadar reigned in his place. The name of his city being Pau. His wife's name was Mehetabel, the daughter of Matred, the daughter of Mesahab. These are the names of the chiefs of Esau, according to their clans and their dwelling places by their names. The chiefs Timnah, Alva, Jetheth, Oholibamah, Elah, Pinon, Kenaz, Temer, Mibzar, Magdiel, and Iram. These are the chiefs of Edom, that is Esau, the father of Edom, according to their dwelling places in the land of their possession. Can we just take 5 seconds while I drink and recover myself? You are going to be glad this morning that I'm not going to go through a comprehensive exegesis of chapter 36. I'm not going to kick the projector on and get some family trees out and show you kind of all the intricacies of what's going on there. What we're going to do this morning is just zoom in on a couple of verses at the beginning of chapter 35, actually. And I think we need to dig into them because there's something so fundamental to being a Christian in there that I think we need to explore the topic in a little more detail than we would if we were to try and deal with everything. So let's just breeze over kind of what we've read. What's going on in this couple of chapters? Well, chapter 35, we're at the end of the generations of Isaac. You'll have noticed chapter 36 twice. There is that kind of subtitle that breaks up Genesis into its constituent parts. These are the generations of, and then a name. And so chapter 35 is the culmination, the conclusion of the generations of Isaac. Jacob has come back finally to Bethel, where God appeared to him, and from there he comes home, back to his father's house. His mother thought he was going to be away for a few days, and it's been, 30 years? And he takes up his inheritance, though it comes marked by death. The chapter is full of deaths. Firstly of Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, and then of Rachel in childbirth while bearing Benjamin, and finally of Isaac. And so it's a little bit of a sad chapter, and mixed in there's some hints of what's going to come, a continuation of what's already been happening with Jacob's children. We see Reuben, the firstborn, going off the rails and trying to make a power play as well. And then in the second half of our reading, chapter 36, we could easily fall into despair that this has much to say to us. But Esau's family and how it merged into kind of Seir the Horites family and how they ruled Edom, though it isn't kind of thrilling historical narrative for us, we need to remember what this book was written into, the context. Remember that Moses wrote this book. And who did he write it to? Who were the first readers? They would have been the Israelites, coming out of slavery in Egypt. Maybe they even read it or had it read to them while they were in slavery in Egypt. And so we're going to see many of these names come up again and again and again as the Israelites come up back through into the promised land. We see that there are conflicts with Edom, who's the whole focus of the chapter, and Amalek, who's there as one of the children. But as we move past the broader narrative and drill down in, let's reread just a couple of verses that may have slipped our minds by now. At the beginning of 35, what does God say? He says to Jacob, "Arise and go up to Bethel and dwell there, and make an altar there to the God who appeared to you when you first fled from your brother Esau." So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Put away the foreign gods that are among you, and purify yourselves and change your garments. Then let us arise and go up to Bethel, so that I may make an altar to the God who answers me in the day of my distress, and has been with me wherever I have gone." God calls Jacob to come back to Bethel, even after the mess of Shechem. God's inviting Jacob to come back, to complete the vow that he swore at Bethel, to take up God as his God. Perhaps it took the pain of Shechem, the disgrace of Shechem, the complete mind-blowing destruction of Shechem to wake Jacob up and prepare him to be able to do this. Either way, Jacob rightly turns around and maybe for the first time, acts as the head of his household and calls out the idolatry that's been going on among his family and among the broader people that are with him. Now, this idea of idolatry, I don't know what jumps into your mind when I say that word. Maybe it sounds old-fashioned. Like, when we're looking here in verse 4, we see that they're talking about literal, physical idols and earrings that they're wearing, which were tokens of the worship of other gods. And these would have been taken from Shechem, and we know at least one was taken from Laban's household, and maybe they'd come from other sources as well. And maybe as kind of post-Enlightenment people, we could look at this and kind of laugh. Oh, look at these unenlightened pagans. Maybe for some of us who aren't Christians, we're thinking about this and we're thinking, oh, if only you Christians would get rid of your final God and, become atheists, that would kind of get you to the place where you're meant to be. But we need to drill down into this a little bit, particularly us who are Christians. Because we need to be so careful that we don't point the finger at other people without actually searching our own heart first. There's a very famous quote that talks about the human heart as an idol factory. Idolatry is baked into our sinful natures. I think it was Keller who talked about the fact that we are built to worship. And so when we try to get rid of stuff to worship, actually we end up constructing more things to worship again. I mean, just look at the culture that we live in. 21st century Britain. We're in the middle of a month that celebrates the Pride movement. And a failure to toe that line, it can mean the loss of your job. It can mean the loss of friends. It could mean all sorts of other ramifications, couldn't it? Carl Trueman, who's an excellent essayist, that sounds a little bit better than blogger, doesn't it? He's an essayist and a church historian, but he likened it to blasphemy laws. It's an interesting connection to make, isn't it? In many ways, the taboo lists and the blasphemy laws of the religion of pride come from an idolatry of self, and ironically of freedom, and it warps society. It offers absolutely no grace, but only legalistic demands to obey. And in many ways it's a backlash to the natural progression of the secular atheistic religion that's held sway in Britain for the last 60 years. Maybe that's not where you're at. Maybe that's not what you see. Some of you brothers and sisters who come from other nations, I hope that you'll be able to feed into that and help us think that through. But for many of us, as we live in a culture that subscribes to that idea, that isn't the idol that we carry. For some of us, the idol is still self. The idol is still ourselves, but we subscribe to a different religion. Maybe it's the religion of prosperity. Whether we listen to the self-help preachers who babble on YouTube, or maybe we just quietly worship, attending to ourselves by our creature comforts. The idol of prosperity is so strong in our culture. And it's not just out there, it's in the church. Believe me when I say that I am preaching to myself as much as I am preaching to any one of us. The tug of our hearts towards these things are so strong. Why else would Jesus, when he's preaching in Matthew 16 to his disciples, say this? If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. To take up your cross is to submit to a death sentence. The Romans were meticulous. If you were put on a cross, you were as good as dead. It's not some pretty little ornament to hang around the neck. Jesus is telling his disciples and us to consider ourselves as good as dead men, as good as dead women. All of those previous ambitions, all of those much-loved comforts, all of those cherished sins. Consider this. Wouldn't they all pale into insignificance if we knew that we were going to die tomorrow? If we knew that we were going to stand before our Lord tomorrow and account for our lives? But Jesus goes on to say, doesn't he? Isn't it fascinating? Jesus has this incredibly hard teaching, but the second half of it gives life. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will profit a man if he gains the world but forfeits his soul? The reality is that living for ourselves is what we need to stop doing and instead follow Jesus. And Jesus preaches that we'll actually find life. What Jesus is teaching here is what some more modern people have called the freedom of self-forgetfulness. It's not thinking less of ourselves, having a low ego, but actually looking at ourselves less. Because the reality is that if we focus on ourselves, if we in fact make an idol of anything, we'll become enslaved to what we worship. That's what the New Testament teaches, time and time again. If we become enslaved by our ego or our self-worth or our identity or our comfort, the prophets of this religion are many and various. They're on our TVs, they're in our books. They're on YouTube, left, right, and centre. And they're talking about how to improve yourself, how to get what you want. If we worship our families, we'll actually end up becoming enslaved to their progress and their abilities and their prospects. It's possible. If we worship our work and measure ourselves by our salaries or by our utility, then we'll be enslaved to our status and prestige. All of these are idols. Idolatry is taking the good things that God has given us and putting them into God's place, worshipping them and following them above all else. And Paul speaks specifically to the Galatians about this principle, although he's applying it to a very different case. He's applying it to the religion of a Christless Judaism. But listen to what he says and see how it applies. Formerly, when you did not know God, you were enslaved to those that by nature are not gods. But now that you have come to know God, or rather to be known by God, how can you turn back again to the weak and worthless elementary principles of the world, whose slaves you want to be once more? How can we as Christians, who have come to know Christ, who have come to know grace, who have come to know the freedom that only He gives, how can we turn back to those things? Peter talks about the false teachers who peddle this idolatry. What does he say? 2 Peter 2:19. They promise freedom, but they themselves are slaves of corruption. For whatever overcomes a person, to that he is enslaved. Some of us are maybe feeling that slavery in our lives, we're feeling the tug of it. Whether it's a hidden addiction or a besetting sin. And those self-help gurus, they will try to plaster that wound. But only the gospel can truly free us. Now, what does this have to do with Jacob? Or, I've been applying it to us, but even to us for that matter. It's all very well that we dig around in the Bible for this idea of the idolatry and how that leads to slavery. But there's such a direct way that this applies to us as Christians, and we see it even here in chapter 35, don't we? What's the reason for Jacob taking this idolatry seriously here? He's going to set up an altar. He's going to worship and present himself to God. Now, we don't live under the same covenant that Jacob lived under. We don't live under the same set of rules that he lived under. We know that as Christians, we live before God's face. I love this idea. To live before the face of God, it's an innately Christian thing. God's Spirit dwells within us if we are following Jesus. Jacob recognized that God had ever been with him, but he didn't live in the same realities that we do. We Christians don't go up to a temple. We are God's temple. And so any idolatry that we harbor, however hidden it is, however small it is, however kind of in the background it is, it's an abomination against Jesus. Strong language. Anywhere we look for ultimate satisfaction or identity or vindication outside of God, outside of the grace of Jesus Christ, is utterly incompatible with the gospel. We short-circuit the only hope that we have for true freedom. And we deface the beauty of what God has done in the cross. And this morning we're going to come and we're going to share communion together. We're going to remember what Jesus did on that cross, how he purchased our salvation. And so let's take a few minutes, just in quiet, just in your own heart and mind. Let's honestly examine ourselves as we're called to in the New Testament, to examine ourselves. And the reality is that although we have to do things, we have to do as Jacob did, take it seriously, cast out the idols, change the clothes, although in our context, slightly different. Though we have to do this, we recognize, don't we, that sanctification only comes from God. Only the Spirit can sanctify us. Only the Spirit can cleanse us. And so let's honestly come and examine our hearts and our minds. Let's ask Jesus to sanctify us. Let's ask him to cleanse us of the idols that we've treasured, so that we can live for him and follow him wholeheartedly. Let's just spend a couple of minutes in quiet, and then I'll pray for the elements and we'll take communion together.